Hello, everyone. See if I turn this on, if it's better. Not really. Maybe a little bit. This is Q&A Live, episode 6. So I will wait for people to join. Anyone can ask questions, and I answer. Let's get started with topics that were talked about this week while we wait for questions to come in. So we talked about um, body movements. So um, the number one thing I find parents doing when I go into their homes is um, keeping them really close. And we baby wear, our babies are always close to us and skin to skin, and that is talked about a lot. But what we need to be talking about is what their body is doing, because you can do skin to skin and allow the movement or the unwinding of their bodies. Um, and so I think a really big missing piece in baby movements and education is how babies should be moving and how we can promote that movement. And so even from a newborn, they say, you can tummy time can start from day one on your chest, but allowing um, even a newborn to go through some big movements is really important, and not keeping them curled up in sort of like a fetal protective position. And so as they get more time on the floor, um, us supporting them in those movements. So, what movements can we do to support them besides laying them there? There's lots of things you can do. And that's where the baby unwind guide comes in, because we can be facilitating these good positive movements to give them more awareness within their system, within their environment. Um, so that was that post. But then we don't want to just stop. So a lot of times we see something like a deficit, baby's not rolling or they're not sitting up. And so we engage in these activities to improve that particular skill. What I think is even more important is that once we learn that particular skill, okay, what are some activities that we can do for the whole body as part of a daily routine to improve movement and their self and body awareness all the time? And so those activities help bring that together too. Feel free to ask your question once you come on. This is just for you, and I answer questions as they come in. And so that was the body movement post. That's what it was about. Um, a lot of times, too, when I'm first treating a child and the parent sees how I move their infant, it can one of the parents I just treated said it was counterintuitive to what she would imagine you're supposed to be doing with a newborn. And I can definitely see that. They're big movements, and because we know that babies don't have any control and that they sort of just flop around, it's about controlling that for them, but allowing the movement to happen. And so when they can see that and they can see the difference and the tension release out of their body, they become more comfortable with those movements and doing them all the time throughout the day. And so that to me is a huge piece of what's missing, um, along with lots of things that are missing in terms of baby parent education, is how to facilitate and how to help your baby move. Um, because we do talk about skin to skin, we do talk about tummy time, but we're not talking enough about the body and what we can do in those activities to improve tension, and get their sensory system awake. Feel free to ask your question and I'll answer them as they come in. Um, I did another post on release. Um, Whenever I work one on one virtually or one on one in person, I do talk to the parent about how to release their trauma as well. I You cannot have a baby who has feeding difficulties and not be experiencing some sort of trauma related to that. Now, you may have shut it off and you may have shut down, and you may just be in this routine um, and in this um, realm where this is what is considered normal for your life right now, and you're not even acknowledging what it is that you have gone through. um, you have to acknowledge that and release it while, like, if you're working with me, we need to do that together, because in order to improve your feeding relationship with your child, you have to also acknowledge where your trauma is coming from. So I think that that's really, really important. And that is something that I discuss in the Baby Unwind Guide as well. Um, and if you work with me individually, I walk you through specific things to say based on what I see. That was that post specifically during the holidays, because you have a lot of opinions coming at you and it can be pretty intense. Hello, if you're joining, you can feel free to drop a question if you have one. Hi, Megan. I'm going to recognize your name. I think you've come to all of them so far. Hi, Megan. Can you talk more about your daily activities with your kids? Are these things all kids should be doing, or do you tailor to your kids based on your knowledge and experience? I believe it should be all children. I think it should be nasal hygiene and stretching the body should be as important as when we teach them to brush their teeth, as important as um, I mean, they do talk about nasal hygiene in terms of like sickness, but why are we not doing more preventative? So the things that I talk about are more preventative, like teeth brushing. Teeth brushing is hygienic, but it is preventative in nature. It prevents cavities, right? But it also cleans the oral space and that good stuff. So I like to encourage parents to incorporate it into your routine, because if it's part of your routine, yes, you can slide off a routine. There are some days, consecutive days, maybe even weeks that go by where it's just too much and we slide out of our routine, or we do something different, we go on vacation, we come back and it takes a while. But because you have this knowledge, you will notice those subtle differences and it will push you to get back to your routine. But it's hard to incorporate these little things if you don't have a routine established. So when I slide off and I'm like, oh my, okay, nobody's sleeping good. Mouths are open everywhere. We've got to get back into our routine. I already know it. They know it. And so it's just something that we can get back into. So do I think that you should be doing some sort of stretching? And I'll talk about specific activities. Nasal hygiene should just be done when you're after you brush teeth. Nasal hygiene. And what's great about nasal hygiene is you can make it, or any of these things, is that you can make it super, super fast and simple. Or if you find that you have more time and you feel like they're struggling in one particular area, you can sit and expand on these activities. So let's talk about like what I do. So in the morning when the kids wake up, they all get up at different I mean, the boys get up at the same time. So I have 3. And so it can get really, really chaotic. Um, so I routines are just so lovely. I can't talk enough about a routine. And so when all the kids wake up, I immediately give them a stretch. The stretch looks different based on what I see from them. So if like this morning, my middle woke up in a rage. And so I took him, I held him, and I did a back release. So all the things that I talk about are either in the oral play guide or the baby unwind guide. And so I did a back release and we sat there and I tell him what we're doing. I tell him, I want you to feel your body. Do you feel good right now? And have him recognize that what he's feeling is okay to feel, but we want to release that. So okay, let's count. Counting works really well with kids. I love counting. It helps them realize that this isn't going to go on forever. It gives them some sort of control. And so we count a lot or we sing songs so they know at the end of the song it's over. So for him, we did that. It's not always that though. Sometimes I just flip him into a guppy stretch and we count to 10 and he goes on his day. My daughter, when I get her out of the crib, I immediately put her into a guppy, stretch her back. She hangs there while I'm walking her to the bathroom. Okay. So, like, I'm doing these activities while we're moving on to the next task. Um, and so that's what we do for stretching, the nasal hygiene, and then I do oral play inside the tub. And so sometimes if we skip bath for the day, I don't do oral play. Sometimes if I see any of them overly seeking, meaning they have their shirt in their mouth or they're chewing on toys, um, that to me is a sign that they're seeking something. So I eat if I can't give them something hard to eat like a raw apple, then I'm giving them a chewy tube and I'm doing some really good deep under the tongue stretches to make sure we're not building any tension and they're getting what they need from the sensory perspective. And so oral play is just thrown in throughout the day, and then during bath, I will always do an oral play. And this is, I'm not laying them down and doing, 15-minute exercises. It's literally 30 seconds or less for each kid. Um, I do more lips for my middle because he has a beautiful tongue resting posture. But he's got asthma. He tends to be more congested. So we work on that with oils and lotions. And so I do more lip so that he's more aware of that closure. He loves the taping. And I think he asks for it when he's feeling a little more breathy to help support that, especially at night. So tonight, because he was in a rage, I'm going to assume that he didn't get quality sleep. So we are definitely doing taping tonight to help facilitate that. And I will do some oils to facilitate better breathing for him. Um, so that is that. For my oldest, he has that recessed jaw. He's the reason why I created all of this stuff because he is a hot mess in the mouth. And so we are working a lot on tongue elevation. He doesn't carry a lot of tension, probably because we do guppy and all the things, but he keeps a low resting posture. So his activities are more him imitating me. And for my youngest, she is low tone. She just is floppy. And so we do a lot of strengthening. I give her lots of chewy tubes. And I know when she's falling off because she tends to change her feeding habits and want to eat softer foods. So I know at that point I need to increase her texture and increase some strength. So we do a lot of munching, and because she's low tone and floppy, she does carry lots of tension in the back of her tongue and in between her shoulder blades. So we do a lot with that. So the purpose of the guide for you as an individual, for anyone watching, is to say, okay, learn all of these activities. My hope is that I also give you things to consider and understand. Okay, but this is the area that I need to focus on for my baby, or what I see the biggest difference with when I do it. the baby unwind, you will use different techniques based on what you see. Um, Okay. So that's what I do for stretches. For nasal hygiene, I incorporate that into the bathtub. And how that can, it's either drop, drop, they sniff, and we go. So 5 seconds. But if they are congested, if there's active snot, we're dropping, we're suctioning, we're dropping again. Um, if they're congested, if I can just hear it back there, we're dropping, but then we're doing some breathing. We're gonna close our lips. We're gonna get a device so our lips are closed and do some good breathing. Put our head back so that we're opening and draining the airway. I might do a face massage to make sure that our the passages are open and so they're not clogged. Um, so that is how we can extend that activity. So it can be super fast or it can be long, depending on if they need it. Um, if their ears are draining, um, or if they're pulling on them. So I don't do antibiotics. Um, and so if I suspect an ear infection, we're doing oils and I'm doing drain massages to get that gunk out, right? An infection is there because it's not draining properly and it sits there and builds an infection. So we need to get it out. I mean, there are times where, of course, where I've used antibiotics. I'm not against antibiotics all the time. Uh, but I will let their body fight it for as long as it can. And so draining for like any clogging, or if you have tubes and you see it draining out of the tube, then we need to be opening that up because it's not doing what it's supposed to be doing. And then you think, okay, but why? So is their tongue sitting low? Why is it sitting low? Did they sleep wrong? Are they going through a growth spurt? Have you seen any other changes? And then you sort of gear what you do. Maybe it's outside of what you do for routine and you add something more specific. Um, so we wake up every morning and we stretch. They all go to school or daycare. So when they get home or during the weekend, if I see their high needs, I add those things. At night is when I do most of the stuff. So we do our teeth brushing, we do nasal hygiene, we do stretching, we do oral play all in the tub. And then yeah, so it's not about, and I talk about it all the time. It's not about like adding something new. It's about like incorporating it into what you're already doing. Um and the more you recognize your child's needs, the faster you can be. I hope that makes sense. Um, I know that my knowledge and experience does shift more easily what I do, but I'm really hoping that's what the guides can do for you as well, is learning what you're looking for. And I don't know, maybe I need to add more information in the guides about like if you see this, I want you to start thinking in this direction, to sort of help guide maybe a change in routine based off of something else, um, like something that is noticed. So maybe you do certain things and something is shifting, so you add in something more specific. Um, so I do think that my knowledge does shift that more easily, but it can be easy for you too. I hope that helps. I don't even know what I was talking about before. Releasing energy, I think. Um, you explain things that's just easier. Yes, good. I'm glad I do. Sometimes I worry that I'm not making sense because I talk so much. So thank you for that. Um, okay, good. I'm glad. Okay, you're the only one on here, Megan. So do you have any other questions? We have about 10 more minutes. I think that's like bring your family closer to wellness. I think that that's really important. Um, I think that's really important because Um, I don't know, when I was growing up, my dad is a military man. We do not have a good relationship at all. But whenever I tell my friends that he used to make us wear a sweatsuit and would put extra blankets on top of us, and we could only drink Sprite, and that was it. And like if we started to feel bad, that's what we did until we felt better. Um, and, like, people around me will get sick and catch things really easily, and they're like, "You just never get sick." And I think it's just so important. Then I have friends whose kids have been on antibiotics over and over and over again, and I think that there's an important piece to all of this, to overall wellness, that is just hugely missed. And so I'm hoping that these things do help you and your family get to that wellness phase, where even like the smallest thing you like recognize, and then we're not building on top of something, and we lose what the original problem was, right? So when we lose the original problem, we then treat a symptom and treat a symptom and treat a symptom. And so when I notice a change or a shift in my kids, I'm never saying, well, oh well, or oh, it looks normal, or kids have tantrums, but why today? Why was he angry when he woke up today? And so that is, I'm not going to say, well, oh well, first we need to regulate his system, because that's setting his whole day up for failure. Um, but also, let's backtrack. What happened last night? And let's try to figure out that so we can improve tonight's, because that would build on top of it. And you know what happens to those kids? I get a lot of heat when I say this, but I believe that a lot of children who have symptoms of ADHD, not true ADHD, but symptoms of it, can be treated if we look at what their sleep quality. Sleep quality is so big. And now I just went on a tangent. And so there's a place for medical diagnoses and medication, 100%. Um, but really, there's I believe that there can be lots of things that are overlooked as well. I think it was a major. Great. Okay, good. All right. Well, then I guess I will see you Thursday, Megan. Bye.